Hey guys! Tonight we're diving deep into the cold, silent world of medieval winters, and how soldiers somehow managed to sleep in them. Imagine stepping outside right now, barefoot, into a freezing field where the wind bites like a pack of wolves. Now imagine doing that every night for months, with no central heating. No electric blanket. Not even a pillow that isn't made of straw and regret. Yeah, you wouldn't last long, trust me. You wouldn't survive a single night. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through the snow. Boots soaked. Fingers stiff as wooden spoons. Your breath curls like smoke in front of your face. Around you, hundreds of men are doing the same, moving slowly, quietly, wrapped in layers of whatever scraps of warmth they could find. The world feels dead. The sky is gray. Every step crunches like the sound of bones underfoot. The winter campaign has dragged on far longer than anyone planned. Supplies are low. Morale is lower. And the only thing colder than the wind is the look in your commander's eyes. You find your camp, if you can even call it that, a ragged cluster of tents sagging under snow. Their ropes stiff with ice. Someone mutters about frostbite. Another coughs so violently it sounds like he's breaking. You hear a man whisper a prayer, not for victory, but just for warmth. You duck into your tent, which smells like wet wool and misery. The canvas is thin, patched a dozen times. You can see your own breath puffing out like a small ghost in the dark. You lie down on a bed of straw that's half frozen, half damp, and fully disappointing. Every movement sends a chill crawling up your back. You curl tighter, trying to trap what little heat your body has left. Outside, the wind screams like a beast. You can hear the wooden pikes creak, the snow shift, and somewhere, faintly, the howl of wolves. Or maybe that's just the men. Your armor sits in the corner, frosted over. You think about taking it off completely. But the last man who did woke up with icicles in his beard, and that was the lucky part. The unlucky ones didn't wake up at all. You try to close your eyes. But sleep here is more an act of defiance than rest. The cold pries into every joint, every breath. You wrap your cloak tighter, scratchy wool, stiff with sweat and salt, and try to think of something warm. Maybe home, maybe a hearth, maybe that one time in summer when the air smelled of bread and hay instead of blood and smoke. But the memories fade fast. Hunger gnaws at your stomach like a rat in the dark. The snow outside keeps falling, whispering against the tent, soft, endless, cruel. Someone coughs again. Someone else mutters a curse. Then silence. Just the wind and the faint crackle of dying embers. You wonder, absurdly, if the enemy soldiers across the valley are any warmer tonight. Probably not. Maybe they're huddled together too, swearing under their breath, cursing their kings, wondering how many toes they'll have by spring. Historians still debate how these soldiers survived nights like this. Some say they never truly slept, just drifted in and out. More frozen trance than slumber. Others claim the human body adapts. That exhaustion itself becomes a blanket. Either way, it's hard to believe anyone could rest in a world made entirely of frost. Your eyelids grow heavy, but it's not comfort pulling them down, it's fatigue. A deep, bone-heavy weariness that comes from too many battles, too little food, and too much cold. You can feel your thoughts slowing, your breath thickening. The cold becomes something else now, less pain, more numbness, almost peaceful, almost. Somewhere far off, you think you hear a song, a low hum, maybe a prayer, maybe just the wind slipping through the cracks. You'd laugh if you weren't so tired. Medieval ASMR. You think, minus the soft whispers and plus the constant risk of dying of hypothermia. But even in this misery, there's a strange beauty. The way the moonlight paints the camp in silver. The stillness between breaths. The sense that for one brief night, every soldier, friend or foe, is just another soul trying to make it to morning. You pull the cloak up to your chin. The straw crackles under you. Somewhere, ice shifts on the canvas. And finally, your body surrenders. You drift into something like sleep, where dreams mix with the sound of wind and snow. And as you slip away, the last thing you think is not about glory or battle or God. It's about warmth, that one simple miracle that feels rarer than victory itself. Tomorrow will be colder, you know that, but for now, the night has you. The morning doesn't come gently. It crashes into you like a bucket of ice water. The kind that makes your soul momentarily leave your body just to file a complaint. The wind hasn't stopped, it just got meaner overnight. You blink, and for a moment you're not sure whether you've woken up or just changed nightmares. The tent groans. Frost crusts the edges of your blanket. Your breath hangs in the air, thicker now. Like smoke from a dying candle. The straw you slept on has frozen into a single, solid mat. You try to stretch, but every muscle aches as if you'd spent the night wrestling ghosts. Maybe you did. You sit up. Your cloak cracks where it froze to itself. There's a thin film of ice on your boots, the same boots you fell asleep wearing. You tap them. And snowflakes fall from the ceiling, dancing in the pale light that seeps through the tent's seams. Outside, the camp stirs, slow, groaning, reluctant. The sound is not of life but of survival, coughing, grunting, the scrape of metal, the distant cry of someone discovering their water skin is frozen solid again. You crawl out and immediately regret it. The world outside is pure white. But not the kind you see on postcards. This white bites back. It reflects the sun like shards of glass, stabbing into your eyes. The air feels alive, sharp, merciless, ready to strip warmth from your bones. Men stumble about, wrapped in furs, rags, anything. Their faces are raw and red, lips split, beards stiff with frost. One soldier tries to light a fire, his hands shaking so badly the flint nearly flies away. Another hacks at the snow with a broken shield, trying to dig out the remains of last night's embers. Tents huddled together like frightened animals. The air smells of smoke, sweat, and despair. You watch a man pour water into a tin cup and set it near the tiny flame they've coaxed back to life. Within moments, it turns to slush, then ice. The man just laughs, a hollow, hoarse sound. The fire's colder than I am. He mutters. He might be right. You glance toward the tree line, where the wind whips the branches like whips. Somewhere beyond lies the enemy. You can't see them, but you know they're there, shivering, cursing, maybe wondering if you've frozen yet. In a way, You feel closer to them than to your own commander. Historians still debate how soldiers built any sort of shelter that could withstand this. Some claim they dug shallow pits and covered them with branches and animal hides, turning the earth itself into a crude cocoon. Others think they built low tents from spare shields and cloaks, trapping heat by sheer stubbornness. You suspect it was a mix of both, desperation and ingenuity stitched together by frostbite. A fellow soldier trudges by, his breath fogging the air. He's clutching a small bundle of straw and muttering something about insulation. You've heard that word only in sermons about faith, but here it's become holy in a whole new way. You return to your tent and tug at the edges, trying to patch a rip with a strip of old leather. It's pointless, but it gives your hands something to do. You notice your fingertips, pale, almost waxy. You rub them hard, until the feeling returns like the sting of 1,000 needles. There's a saying among the men, if you can feel the pain, you're still alive. Comforting, in the bleakest possible sense. You take out a small piece of bread, more ice than food, and gnaw at it carefully. It cracks like stone. The taste is nothing, but the act of eating feels like rebellion. Warmth may have abandoned you, but hunger still remembers your name. You can hear laughter from a few tents away, the brittle kind that sounds closer to madness. Someone's telling a story about a knight who once fell asleep standing because the ground was too cold to lie on. Another claims his cousin in Burgundy learned to sleep inside a dead horse to survive a blizzard. Everyone laughs, but not too hard, because they all secretly know it might not be a joke. As the day crawls on, the sky stays gray, heavy with more snow. You're supposed to rest before nightfall, but no one really rests here. You just slow down the shivering. You lie back again, staring at the fabric roof above you. The ice on it glitters faintly, catching what little light filters through. For a strange moment, it's almost beautiful, like 1,000 tiny stars frozen mid-breath. You imagine being warm again. Not in luxury, just not cold. The thought itself feels extravagant. You close your eyes, breathing shallowly, feeling the tremor in your chest fade. A fellow soldier nearby hums softly, an old song about spring. About green fields and lovers waiting by the river. His voice is cracked, tired, but gentle. For a moment, the camp seems to quiet, as if even the wind wants to listen. You can almost believe that warmth is returning. Almost. But then a gust tears through the tent, shaking snow loose from the top. The moment's gone. You curse under your breath. Then laugh, because what else can you do? You roll tighter into your cloak, muttering to yourself, if the Middle Ages had weather apps, everyone would have quit being a knight. Outside, a horn sounds, time to gather, time to move, time to pretend you're still made of flesh and not frost. You sigh, pull yourself up, and step back into the blinding white. The war doesn't pause for winter. And sleep, the one mercy left, is a luxury no soldier can afford for long. You return to camp that evening half frozen, half starved, and entirely unimpressed by the medieval concept of comfort. Your boots squelch with melted snow. Every step feels like walking on knives. The sun hasn't so much set as given up, sliding behind a wall of iron clouds that look like they're plotting something cruel. Night descends fast, and with it, the cold becomes personal. like it's holding a grudge. You pass through rows of sagging tents, smoke coiling out of makeshift chimneys. The air smells of burning dung and desperation. Men crouch around faint fires, their faces hollowed by shadows. You can tell who's been here the longest. They've stopped complaining. They just stare into the flames like philosophers of misery. Inside your own tent, the air is thick and damp, as if the cold has weight. You pull the flap closed and sink down onto your straw pile. It's damp again. Of course it is. Everything in winter eventually learns to weep. You glance at your hands, cracked knuckles. Dirt ingrained in every line. A few of your fingertips are gray. You rub them, trying to coax life back. It's a nightly ritual now. Part of the soldier's liturgy. Check your fingers. Check your toes. Pray they're still attached. Tonight, though, you're determined to improve your sleeping arrangement. You've been watching others. Small tricks passed between soldiers like whispered secrets. You stuff extra straw into the corners. Then wedge a piece of leather under your cloak to block the draft. You even lay your shield at your side, to reflect a bit of heat back at you. Congratulations! You've just invented the world's worst space heater. Someone outside sneezes, followed by a string of curses in at least 3 languages. You smile faintly. War does wonders for vocabulary. Then you notice a faint orange glow flickering through the gap in your tent flap. A fire. The campfire. You hesitate. Fires are dangerous. Every soldier knows that. They attract attention. They eat up precious wood. And worst of all, they give you hope. But still, warmth is warmth. You step outside, wrapping your cloak tighter. The campfire is small, barely alive, surrounded by a few desperate figures. They're feeding it twigs, strips of old rope, anything that burns. You join them, your face thawing just enough to remember what skin feels like. One of the men, a grizzled veteran with half an ear, gestures at you. Careful, he says, his breath a mist. If the wind shifts, you'll smoke yourself to sleep permanently. You laugh weakly. Worth the risk. He shrugs. That's what the last guy said. There's a long pause. You hope he's joking. You're not sure. Historians still debate how soldiers balanced survival and stealth in conditions like this. Fire gave life, but it also betrayed your position. Some commanders banned them entirely, forcing their men to sleep cold and invisible. Others allowed small, hidden pits, smudge fires. Buried under earth, their smoke strangled before it could rise. It worked, sometimes, and sometimes it didn't. You hold your hands close to the flames. The warmth seeps into your palms. A slow, delicious burn. It's intoxicating. You feel your shoulders loosen. Your eyelids grow heavy. Around you, others drift the same way. Men reduced to silhouettes. Faces lit by trembling light. Someone starts humming again. Maybe the same tune as before. Maybe something older. The song blends with the wind. A low drone that feels half lullaby, half lament. And then comes the snow. Fine at first, then heavier. The flakes hiss as they hit the fire. Within minutes, the glow dims, the smoke thickens, and your brief moment of comfort dies in a puff of steam. You sigh, pull your cloak over your head, and return to your tent. Inside, you sit in the dark, listening to the snow tapping the canvas. It's almost musical. You think about home, about the hearth, the smell of soup, Your mother scolding you for tracking mud across the floor. Strange how the mind clings to the smallest warmth when the body has none. You lie back, wrapping your arms around yourself. The ground is hard, but familiar. You close your eyes. Your body shakes for a while, then settles into that dull, rhythmic tremor of someone trying not to die. Sleep comes in fragments. You drift in and out. Dreams full of fire and ice. In one, you're walking through your village in summer, flowers in bloom, the sun bright, but when you look down, your hands are still gray. Your breath still fogs the air. Even your dreams can't remember warmth. You wake suddenly to a sound, distant, hollow, a horn, then another. For a second you think it's the enemy. You reach for your sword. Panic rising, but no one's shouting. No alarm, just that slow, mournful call, echoing across the valley. Morning horn, someone mutters outside, time to check the living. You exhale. So that's what it's come to. A horn to separate the sleepers from the corpses. You almost laugh. Almost. The tent glows faintly with the first hint of dawn. You close your eyes again, pretending you don't have to move yet. The wind sighs against the fabric. For a few more heartbeats, you let yourself drift between worlds, between waking and dreaming, in that fragile peace only exhaustion can create. And in that moment, surrounded by frost, fear, and the quiet groan of men not yet dead, you find something strange, not comfort. Exactly, but acceptance. You whisper to yourself, just before sleep pulls you under again. Maybe tonight, the cold will forget my name. By now, you've stopped expecting to wake up warm. You just hope to wake up at all. Morning arrives in shades of gray. The kind that makes everything look like a bad dream you forgot to finish. Your tent flap rattles in the wind. The sound half whisper, half warning. When you open it, the world outside feels sharper somehow. As if the air itself has teeth. Snow has piled against the tents overnight, bending the poles and sealing off the camp in silence. Men move slowly through the drifts, shoulders hunched, eyes hollow. You can't tell who's alive, who's barely functioning, and who's just too stubborn to fall over yet. You step out, the cold immediately clawing at your face. Your breath forms a halo of frost. Your boots crunch through ice. The sound unnaturally loud in the quiet. Today's task isn't battle or glory, it's maintenance. Fixing tents, checking supplies, making sure your comrades haven't turned into frozen statues during the night. The Middle Ages weren't famous for their creature comforts. Still, some soldiers had tricks, and you're desperate enough to try any of them. One man nearby is rubbing animal fat into his boots. It smells like rancid bacon. But it works. The grease seals out moisture and cold. Another is stuffing bits of wool under his tunic, forming an extra layer of insulation. It looks ridiculous, but at least he's not shivering. You consider doing the same, though you're out of spare wool. Then you remember what the older soldiers said last night. Layer by layer. That's the secret. So, you start layering. First, the linen shirt, stiff as parchment. Then the wool tunic, scratchy, thick, smelling faintly of goat. Then your cloak, heavy and coarse. Over that, a fur mantle scavenged from some forgotten beast. Stiff with frost but still clinging to a hint of warmth. Finally, the armor, cold and unyielding. but a decent windbreaker if nothing else. You look like a badly wrapped scarecrow, but you can actually feel your blood again. Progress. You move toward the central fire pit, a black crater of ash surrounded by defeated logs. Someone's already there, coaxing life back into it with a breath that's half prayer. You kneel to help, shielding the spark with your hands. The fire catches. A flicker. A small miracle. It's strange. You never thought fire could make you emotional. Yet here you are, nearly crying over a few orange embers. The group crowds close. One soldier pulls out a scrap of parchment and tosses it in. Another adds a bit of leather. Muttering, "Sorry, boots." The flames grow, licking the cold air greedily. For a fleeting moment, warmth circles the camp like an angel that lost its wings. You close your eyes and lean toward it, feeling the sting on your cheeks. It hurts, but in the best possible way. Someone breaks the silence. "Do you ever think about home?" You open one eye. It's the man with the patched hood. His voice is soft, barely carrying over the crackle of the fire. "Every night," you say. He nods. "I dream of bread, hot bread, the kind that steams when you tear it open." You laugh quietly. "I dream of a bath." "Bath?" he says, incredulous. "You noble or something?" "No," you grin. "Just dirty." The small circle laughs, not out of joy, but recognition. Shared misery makes strange friends. Historians still debate how soldiers like these survived at all. Some suggest the human body can adjust to extreme cold if pushed long enough. Others think it was sheer will, the refusal to die when death would have been easier. You're inclined to agree with the latter. You watch the flames dance and wonder how many centuries have passed since this exact moment. Soldiers huddled around a fire, making jokes to keep from crying. Maybe not much has changed. Maybe this is just what it means to be human. Laugh before you freeze. As night creeps in again, you return to your tent, dragging a handful of warm stones wrapped in cloth. A trick you learned from a mercenary. Heat them by the fire. Then place them near your body. Primitive, but effective. You tuck them by your sides, sighing as the warmth seeps into your skin. Outside, snow begins to fall once more. You listen to it, that soft, steady sound, like the world breathing slowly. You close your eyes. You're not warm, not really, but you're less cold, and that's enough. Sleep creeps in cautiously, like a guest unsure of its welcome. Your mind drifts, to home, to summer, to fields of green that might never have existed. The wind hums against the canvas, a cruel lullaby. Before sleep takes you, you whisper a joke to yourself. Because humor's the last line of defense. If I survive this winter, I'm inventing central heating and charging extra. Then, at last, you slip away, the cold still pressing against you but no longer winning. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howl. You'd like to think they're singing you to sleep. By the fifth night, you've learned that comfort in winter is mostly about lowering your expectations. You no longer dream of warmth. You dream of less cold. You no longer crave a feather bed. You just wish the straw didn't crunch like broken glass. Progress, of a sort. The camp has grown quieter these days. Not peaceful quiet, just the heavy kind that settles over exhausted men. The sound of movement has slowed, and laughter has become rare enough to startle you when it happens. You step outside and breathe in the sharp morning air. It tastes of smoke, iron, and survival. The snow has thickened, muffling everything. The world looks almost clean again, as if war itself has been buried beneath a white shroud. But you know better. Beneath that purity lie frozen trenches, broken wagons, and the ghosts of those who didn't wake up. You tug your cloak tighter. It's stiff with frost again. But it's yours, your portable coffin of warmth. You stomp your boots, trying to wake your feet. The feeling doesn't come back. It never really does anymore. Nearby, a soldier is trying to chew through a piece of bread that could double as a weapon. He gives up and holds it near the fire, hoping it'll soften. It doesn't. You can't help but laugh. And he grins through cracked lips. At least it's not soup. He says, "Last week I broke my spoon on the ice." You nod solemnly. A tragedy historians will never record. He chuckles, coughing halfway through. Then he offers you the bread. You decline. He shrugs, gnaws again, and the sound is somehow louder than the wind. The fire between you pops and hisses, each spark a small rebellion against the cold. You stare into it, mesmerized. The glow feels fragile, like hope itself. You're tempted to move closer, to let it burn your face, just to remind yourself you're still alive. In truth, warmth is becoming a memory. The cold isn't just outside anymore, it's under your skin, in your lungs, in your bones. You've started to think of it as a companion, unpleasant, clingy, but always there. Tonight, the camp's mood is restless. Word spreads that the enemy might be planning a night raid. You can feel the tension in the air, the way everyone moves a bit faster, speaks a bit quieter. Fires are dimmed, weapons kept close. The wind howls through the gaps like a warning. You crawl back into your tent and lie down, your sword within reach. Your breath fogs the air in small clouds, fading as quickly as they appear. You pull the cloak up to your chin, layering it with your tunic and whatever rags you've managed to collect. It's still not enough. You try to sleep, but the cold won't let you. It seeps through the ground, creeping up your spine. You shift, curl tighter, hold your hands under your arms. Nothing helps. You think about the soldiers who served before you, the ones who fought in winters even worse than this. Historians write about their bravery, their strategy, their victories. They never write about how they slept, how they shook through the night, how they whispered prayers into the dark. You can almost hear them now, those forgotten soldiers, breathing beside you through the centuries. Their stories layered over yours, like snow piling on old tracks. You whisper softly, "How did you do it?" The tent doesn't answer, only the wind, sighing like an old monk reciting a prayer. A voice outside interrupts your thoughts. Shift change, your turn at watch. You groan. Of course it is. You grab your cloak and crawl out into the storm. The camp is a blur of shapes, tents hunched under snow, men moving like shadows. You walk toward the perimeter, boots crunching in rhythm with your heartbeat. The cold hits harder now, the kind that doesn't sting, just sinks in, slow and merciless. You take your post beside a wooden pike. Beyond the camp lies an endless white void, dotted with the black silhouettes of trees. Every sound, the creak of leather, the crack of ice, feels amplified. You tighten your grip on your weapon and stare into the dark. Minutes stretch into hours. Your eyelids droop. You catch yourself swaying, The snow whispers around your feet, and your mind starts to drift. You imagine you're home again, lying beside the fire. Your mother humming softly. The warmth feels so real you almost cry. Then the wind shifts, slapping you back into the present. You shake your head violently, stamping your feet to stay awake. The last thing you need is to freeze standing up, like some tragic monument to bad luck and worse timing. At last, a faint horn sounds in the distance. Shift over. You're free to sleep, or at least pretend. You trudge back through the snow, the camp half buried now, your tent glowing faintly in the moonlight. Inside, you collapse onto the straw and close your eyes. Sleep comes quick this time, not peaceful, not warm, but deep. Somewhere between waking and dreaming, you hear a voice, maybe your own, maybe the wind, murmuring. Tomorrow, maybe the sun will remember us. You smile faintly in the dark. That's the kind of lie worth believing. You wake to a sound that doesn't belong to winter, dripping. At first, you think you're dreaming, but then you open your eyes and see it. Beads of water sliding down the canvas, fooling near your boots. For a brief, glorious second, you believe it's warmer. Then you realize the truth. The snow on your tent is melting from your own body heat. Which means you've become your own heater. Efficient, but depressing. The air is thick and wet now, heavy with the scent of damp straw and smoke. Outside, the world is a watercolor of grays and whites. The sky hanging low like a lid. Somewhere, a horse whinnies, the sound tired, hollow, resigned. You know how it feels. You push yourself up, your joints protesting like rusty hinges. You rub your hands together, feeling the familiar sting as blood sluggishly returns. The skin on your knuckles has split again. Tiny red lines, frozen before they can bleed. You step outside. The camp looks worse than ever. Snow has half swallowed some of the tents, the rest lean drunkenly. Their ropes groaning. A few soldiers are trying to dig out the supply carts, hacking at the ice with daggers. One man slips and curses so creatively you almost applaud. Morning, someone grunts. You turn. It's the veteran with half an ear again. He's chewing something, you think it's leather. And you decide not to ask. Sleep? He asks. You shake your head. Didn't die. So, that's something. He laughs. The sound more cough than joy. That's the new definition of rest these days. You both stare at the horizon. The wind carries the faint smell of smoke, not from your camp, but somewhere beyond it. Enemy fires. Maybe they're as miserable as you are. You almost hope so. Fair's fair. Historians still argue about how soldiers managed their tents in these conditions. Some accounts mention animal hides stretched over wooden frames, coated with oil or wax to repel moisture. Others describe them sleeping directly in snow pits, believing the packed snow trapped warmth better than the open air. It sounds insane, until you realize insanity might have been the only thing keeping them alive. You walk past a group of men clustered around a new idea, stacking branches and snow into crude walls to block the wind. A fort, someone calls it proudly, though it looks more like a sad snowman that gave up halfway. You help anyway, piling snow with numb hands. Anything that breaks the wind helps, even a little. When the wall's done, the men collapse against it, panting clouds of steam. Someone jokes, "We'll be cozy now." You all laugh. No one believes it, but it feels good to pretend. As dusk creeps in, you return to your tent. You light a small candle stub, one of your last. The flame flickers, fragile but defiant. You hold your hands close, savoring the tiny heat. The shadows it casts on the canvas dance like ghosts, swaying to a rhythm only they can hear. You lie back, listening to the muffled world. The snow outside softens every sound, the wind, the coughing, even the groans of restless horses. For once, the quiet feels kind. You pull your cloak up to your chin. The fur is rough against your skin, but it smells faintly of smoke and pine, almost comforting. You close your eyes. Your mind drifts to thoughts of fire again. Not the small campfires or the candles, but the big ones, the ones from home. You can almost see it, the hearth blazing, the walls glowing amber, your mother humming, your father nodding in the corner. Half asleep, you remember the way warmth had weight, how it wrapped around you like an embrace. You whisper to the dark, "I'd trade every battle I've fought for one more night by that fire." No one answers, of course, but you think the wind eases for a moment, as if in sympathy. You chuckle softly, "Thanks," you murmur to the air. "Good talk." A flake of snow slips through the seam in your tent and lands on your cheek. It melts instantly. You sigh. Outside, someone starts singing a low, trembling tune in a language you don't understand. Others join in, one by one, their voices rough but sincere. It's not quite harmony, but it's something close, something human. You let the song carry you. The notes fade in and out like waves. For a moment, you forget the cold, the hunger, the fear. You're just another voice among the living. Sleep finds you again, gentle this time. And as you drift off, your last thought isn't about survival or war. It's about the song, how even in the cruelest winter, people still find a way to make music. You smile faintly, your breath fogging the air. Maybe that's what keeps us warm. You think, not fire, just each other. The candle flickers once, then dies. Darkness returns, thick and absolute, but for the first time in weeks. It doesn't feel lonely. You sleep, and this time, you actually dream, not of frost, not of fear, but of light. When you wake, the world feels heavier, quieter, but in a way that makes your stomach twist. You don't hear the usual coughs, the muttered complaints, or the soft crunch of boots outside. Just wind, endless wind, sighing through the camp like it's trying to erase it. You push the flap open and squint into the pale light. The sky looks like old pewter. Snow drifts lazily down, silent and thick. The camp feels smaller today, half buried, half forgotten. A few tents have collapsed entirely. One leans on another, its ropes snapped, its poles jutting like broken ribs. You step out. The cold hits immediately, biting your cheeks, numbing your fingers through the gloves. A few figures move through the white haze. Slow, deliberate, like ghosts checking whether they still exist. Near the fire pit, you see a group gathered in silence. You walk over, boots crunching on the frozen ground. There's no fire this morning, just a body, wrapped in a torn cloak. One of the men murmurs a prayer. Another crosses himself. The snow has already begun to cover the shape, blurring it into the earth. You don't ask who it was. You just bow your head. The veteran with half an ear stands beside you. His breath forms clouds. He went in his sleep. He mutters, "Lucky bastard." You nod, not sure if it's agreement or envy. There's no ceremony, no farewell. The ground is too hard to dig, so they build a small cairn of stones instead. It looks pitifully small against the vastness of the snow. When it's done, the men scatter, no words, no glances. You stay a moment longer, watching the snow erase the last outline of the rocks. You whisper, "Rest warm, wherever you are." The wind answers with a low sigh. Historians often write about courage, about battles fought and banners raised. But they rarely talk about mornings like this, when courage means simply standing up. When victory is surviving breakfast. You make your way to the supply tent. Inside, it's chaos. Sacks of grain hardened into bricks. Barrels frozen solid. Rats that look as miserable as you do. A few soldiers chip away at the ice with knives, trying to free enough to cook something resembling food. Someone jokes that the soup will taste like steel in desperation. He's not wrong. You volunteer to fetch snow for melting, the only resource that's endless out here. You grab a bucket and head toward the edge of camp. The wind whips your cloak, tugging like it wants to take it away. You shovel in the snow, white spilling over your gloves. When you look up, the world beyond the camp looks eerily calm. The forest is still, the sky muted. You'd almost think the war had stopped. But you know better. You carry the bucket back, your breath loud in your ears. Inside the tent, the men huddle close to a small fire, watching the snow turn to water, then steam. The smell is faint, a mix of wet wool, metal, and hunger. One of them tosses in a handful of dried peas. They bob like tiny ships, their fate uncertain. You take your turn with the tin cup, swallowing the watery broth. It's barely warm, barely food, but it's something. Afterward, you step back outside. The snow has eased, but the air feels even colder, as if the world itself has stopped moving. You look up and catch sight of the moon faint in the afternoon sky, a pale coin hanging above the gray clouds. You remember something your father once said, long ago. When the nights are cold, look for the moon. It's a mirror of every fire ever lit. Back then, it sounded poetic. Now, it sounds like a cruel joke. You smile anyway. As dusk falls, you join a small group rebuilding the outer barricade. The snow creaks under your boots. The wood groans with every hammer strike. Your fingers ache, but the rhythm keeps you warm. Build, breathe, curse, repeat. A younger soldier nearby, barely grown, asks quietly, "Do you think spring will come?" You pause. The question feels absurd, like asking if the sun still remembers how to rise. Eventually, you say, "It always does. It just likes to take its time." He nods, not entirely convinced. My mother said winter's God's way of testing patience. You smirk. Then God must really hate soldiers. The boy laughs, softly, gratefully. It's the first real sound of life you've heard all day. When the wall is finished, the men disperse to their tents. You linger, staring out over the silent field. The world glows faintly under the moonlight, every flake of snow catching the light like glass. For a moment, you forget the hunger, the pain, the war. It's just beautiful. You whisper to the night. Maybe this is why they wrote songs about winter. You only see its beauty when you've nearly died in it. You return to your tent. Pull your cloak tight. and lie down. Your body feels heavy. Your thoughts slow. The wind hums against the canvas, deep and steady. You think of the man who died this morning, of the boy who still believes in spring, of the songs that drifted through the camp last night. You wonder what future historians will write about this, if they'll remember the frostbitten fingers, the frozen tears, the laughter that somehow refused to die. You close your eyes and whisper, "Remember us kindly." Then, as the wind carries your breath away, you fall asleep to the soft, eternal sound of snow. Night returns like a slow tide, not rushing, not loud, just steady and inevitable. You've stopped fighting it. Somewhere along the line, the dark stopped feeling like an enemy. It's the cold you fear now, not the night itself. The dark at least doesn't bite. You sit near the fire pit, if it can be called that anymore. The flames are small, the wood damp, the smoke lazy, but the light it throws dances on your hands. And for a moment, you can pretend this place is alive. The others sit in silence, their faces ghostly in the glow. Everyone's conserving words as if they were rations. The veteran breaks the silence. You ever think about the people who built these wars? You glance at him. The kings? He nods. Yeah, sitting in their castles, wrapped in fur, dreaming up reasons for us to freeze out here. You smile faintly. Maybe they think we're sleeping under stars, singing songs of honor. He snorts. Then they should try it sometime. See how romantic frostbite feels. A few quiet chuckles ripple through the group, tired but real. You've learned that humor is the last fire left when all others die. You lean back, eyes drifting toward the sky. The stars are sharp tonight, burning like tiny holes in the firmament. The moon hangs low, framed by clouds that look like smoke. You breathe slowly, watching your breath twist up toward it. The young soldier from earlier sits beside you, arms wrapped around his knees. "Do you think the stars look the same from home?" he asks. "Exactly the same," you say. "That's how they trick you. They make you think you're closer than you are." He nods, staring upward. "When I get home, I'll never complain about summer again." "Careful," you reply, smiling. That's the kind of thing you say before the next campaign sends you somewhere tropical. The laughter that follows is soft, but it warms the air more than the fire. Historians still debate how medieval soldiers kept their spirits in such conditions. Some mention shared songs, small rituals, jokes carved into the handles of swords. Others talk about battle kinship, the strange brotherhood born when men freeze, bleed, and laugh together. You can't prove it exists, but you feel it now, that invisible thread pulling you toward the others. Someone starts humming again, the same tune you heard a few nights ago. You recognize it now, an old marching song, slowed down to the rhythm of exhaustion. The melody wraps around the fire like a spell, turning the camp into a single, beating heart. You close your eyes. For a moment, you forget the ache in your bones, the rawness in your throat, the constant weight of snow. All that's left is the sound, low, human, unbreakable. The song fades. Silence follows, but it's not empty this time. It feels full, like the air itself is holding its breath. Then, without warning, the wind shifts. A blast of icy air sweeps through camp, scattering ash and embers. The fire sputters, nearly dies. You and the others scramble to shield it. hands outstretched, eyes squinting through the smoke. Easy, the veteran barks. Don't let it die, not tonight. You hunch lower, cupping the embers, feeding them bits of kindling. The glow flares again, trembling but alive. You exhale, relieved. It's like it knows. Someone mutters, "The fire knows we need it." You don't answer, but you understand. Out here, every small flame feels sentient, aware of the weight it carries. Later, when the wind dies down, you slip away to your tent. The air inside is warmer than usual. Thanks to the fire outside. You remove your gloves and flex your hands, cracked, scarred, but still yours. You stretch out on the straw, which feels less like ice and more like solid ground. Progress again. You pull your cloak up, tucking it under your chin. The cold creeps in slower now, as if tired of its own cruelty. Lying there, you think about what it means to sleep in a world that doesn't want you to. How every breath becomes defiance, every heartbeat a tiny victory. You remember stories of monks in stone monasteries, waking to pray before dawn, their rooms colder than tombs. They called the shivering a test of faith. Maybe this is the same thing, just with fewer prayers and more profanity. You chuckle softly at the thought. Saints freeze for God, soldiers freeze for kings. Maybe we should all just build better fires. Your voice fades into the dark. You can hear the others outside, their murmurs blending with the wind. Somewhere, a horse stamps its hooves. Restless, the sound is strangely comforting. A reminder that life still exists beyond your own trembling hands. Your eyes grow heavy. The line between waking and dreaming blurs again. You see the camp as if from above, tiny flickers of light dotting an endless white plain. Each fire a heartbeat, each soldier a breath. The night swallows everything else. And for once, you're not afraid of it. You whisper, half asleep, "If the stars are watching, I hope they're warm up there." The wind hums softly in reply. The sound like a lullaby sung by the world itself. And this time, when you drift into sleep, it's not from exhaustion, it's surrender, quiet, almost peaceful. The rain keeps falling through the night, a soft percussion on canvas and metal, turning the camp into a rhythm of drips and sighs. You've forgotten what rain sounds like, the way it hums. Steady and patient, like the world's heartbeat coming back after a long silence. When you wake, the air feels heavy but kind. The cold's not gone, not yet, but it's softer now. A ghost of itself. You stretch, your joints popping, and for the first time in months, the ground doesn't bite, it gives. Muddy, yes, but forgiving. You step outside and are greeted by the scent of wet earth. It's intoxicating. Everything's damp, your boots, your hair, your breath, but you can't bring yourself to mind. After endless frost, even discomfort feels like luxury. The boy's already up, trying to dry his cloak near the fire. Smells like a swamp, he mutters, nose wrinkling. You grin, better than smelling like death. He laughs, flicking water from the hem. Progress. The veteran appears next, hair plastered to his forehead, muttering curses about rain being too cheerful. He sits down heavily beside you, staring into the fire. Can't decide which I hate more, snow that kills or rain that muddies. Pick mud, you tell him, at least it means the world's breathing again. He grunts but doesn't argue. Breakfast is a simple affair, soaked bread in hot water. The bread's soggy, but it's warm, and that's enough. You sit under a crude tarp, watching droplets gather on the edge before sliding off into the dirt. Each drop lands with a satisfying plop, feeding tiny puddles that shimmer with light. Historians might call this a turning point, the symbolic renewal after hardship, but you know better. Renewal isn't clean, it's messy. It's mud and wet socks and laughter that smells faintly of smoke. After eating, you join the others in repairing tents. The ropes are slick, the canvas heavy with water. But no one complains. Every small act feels like defiance, a quiet statement, we're still here. The boy hums while he works. You recognize the tune instantly. That same haunting melody that's been with you since the first snow. But now, it sounds different, not mournful anymore, steady, confident, a song that has survived the storm and found new meaning. Can't get it out of your head. Can you? You tease? He shrugs, smiling. It's not just a song now. It's memory. You nod, then keep it close. By midday, the rain slows to a drizzle. Patches of sky peek through the clouds, blue and pale like fragile glass. The forest smells alive, resin, soil, the faint sweetness of thawed pine needles. The air hums with sound again, water running, wind through branches, birds calling. You hadn't realized how empty silence had become until now. The veteran leans on his walking stick, staring out at the landscape. It's strange, he says quietly. You fight the cold for so long that when it finally leaves, you don't know what to do with yourself. You glance at him. Maybe we stop fighting for a while. He chuckles. You think men like us know how to stop? Maybe it's time we learned. You walk down to the stream again. It's swollen with rainwater, running fast, full of energy. You kneel, trail your fingers through it. The chill bites, but it's clean, alive. The boy joins you, crouching nearby. You think this is what victory feels like? He asks. You look at the water, then at him. Victory's louder. This is better. How so? Because this doesn't end. He nods slowly, watching the current twist and shimmer. Maybe victory is just surviving long enough to hear the rain again. You smile faintly. You're getting poetic. Must have caught it from you. Dangerous habit. He laughs, the sound blending with the stream. When you return to camp, the fires are burning higher. Men are drying boots, cleaning weapons, sharing stories that sound less like mourning and more like remembering. You can hear laughter, not forced, not hollow, but real. The veteran looks around and shakes his head. Would you look at that? Soldiers pretending to be human again. You grin. Don't tell the commanders. They'll make us stop. The rest of the day passes in a blur of activity, repairing gear, tending to horses, even a few clumsy songs shared between tents. The rain returns briefly before dusk, gentle and brief, as if reminding you it's not done but it'll be kind about it. When night falls, the camp glows with 100 small fires reflecting off puddles and armor. The air hums softly with warmth and voices. You sit by one of the fires. The boy on your left, the veteran on your right. The flames dance across their faces, one young, one worn, both alive. You lean back, feeling your body finally loosen. For the first time, sleep doesn't feel like surrender, it feels like reward. You close your eyes and whisper to the fire. We're almost there. The flames crackle in agreement, their light flickering like laughter. And as you drift into dreams, the rain begins again, soft, rhythmic, endless, not a storm this time, but a lullaby. The kind that sings, "You've made it through." When dawn arrives, it doesn't creep, it spills. Light floods the camp all at once, golden and thick, turning puddles into mirrors and breath into mist. For the first time in what feels like centuries, you wake to color instead of gray. The air smells like rain-soaked earth and wood smoke. The fire beside you has burned down to ash. But you don't mind. You stretch, joints cracking, and sit for a moment just watching the sunlight move across your hands. "Careful," says the veteran from behind you, his voice gravelly with sleep. "You'll get addicted to that." You grin. Sunlight? Yeah, first it feels like a miracle. Then you realize it makes everything else look dirty. Worth the risk. He chuckles softly, pulling his cloak tighter around his shoulders. The boy emerges a few minutes later, his hair sticking out at impossible angles. "It's warm," he says, as if still testing the word. He squints at the horizon. "Actually warm." You nod. "Told you winter would get bored eventually." He grins, then tilts his face toward the light. Eyes closed. Feels like the world's apologizing. "Maybe it is," you say, "and maybe we should let it." Breakfast is simple but almost cheerful, the last of the dried grain. Boiled in river water, flavored with salt traded from another unit passing by. The texture is questionable, but the warmth fills your chest. Every mouthful feels like a small celebration. The camp hums with activity. Men are cleaning armor, oiling blades, patching boots, and talking, really talking, for the first time in months. Voices rise and fall, laughter cuts through the air, and the wind carries it all away like smoke from a fire that refuses to die. You find yourself smiling without meaning to. The sound of life is louder than any battle drum. Historians might describe this as the reawakening of morale. But that phrase is too small for what you feel. This isn't morale, it's resurrection. You and the boy walk down to the stream again, now clear and rushing fast. Small flowers, fragile, white, have begun to bloom along its edge. You crouch and touch one, half expecting it to vanish under your fingers. It doesn't. It bends and springs back, stubborn as anything that survives winter. The boy watches you. "We lived through it," he says quietly. "Barely," you reply. "Barely's enough." You nod. "It always is." He skips a stone across the surface, 1, 2, 3 bounces before it sinks. You both watch the ripples fade. "Do you think we'll remember the cold?" he asks. You consider that, not the pain. No, just the silence. The way it made everything else feel more real afterward. "I guess that's good," he says. "You can't miss what tried to kill you." "Speak for yourself." You smirk. "Some of us are sentimental." He laughs, and the sound startles a bird from a nearby tree. It takes off in a flash of wings, scattering droplets of water into sunlight. The sparkle lingers like magic. Later that morning, the commander calls everyone to gather. The orders are clear. Break camp by tomorrow. The roads are clear enough. The snow melted enough. The war's still waiting. A ripple of emotion runs through the men, relief, fear, maybe both. You feel it too. The cold was cruel, but it was predictable. The world beyond these tents? That's another storm entirely. You pack slowly, folding your cloak, tying ropes, wrapping your few belongings in cloth. The boy hums as he works. That same tune that has followed every night and every frost. It sounds older now, not sad. Just knowing. The veteran watches him and smiles faintly. He'll outlive us both, he says. Probably, you reply, but he'll remember us kindly. Think so? Because we laughed, you say, and because we didn't let the fire die. The afternoon stretches warm and bright. The ground steams under the sun, releasing the ghosts of snow into the air. You sit by the last campfire you'll light here, the smoke curling upward in lazy trails. The boy sits across from you, sharpening his knife, carefully, almost tenderly. The veteran dozes nearby, muttering something about spring allergies of the soul. You smile, staring into the flames. We made it through the winter. You whisper. The boy looks up, feels strange to say it out loud. Feels earned, you answer. The fire crackles, scattering sparks into the air. You follow one with your eyes as it rises, turns to ember, then vanishes. You know, the boy says after a while. I used to think fire was just light and heat. And now? He smiles. Now I think it's memory. Everything it touches remembers it. You look at the flames, thinking of all the nights it kept you alive, how it glowed against the snow, how it flickered on faces that may never see another dawn. You're right, you say softly, and we remember it too. As evening falls, you sit in silence together. The sky painted in gold and violet. The wind moves gently through the trees, no longer cruel but curious. The camp's sounds fade into murmurs, the kind of quiet that isn't empty but full. You lean back, letting the warmth of the earth seep into your bones. The ground is damp, but it no longer feels hostile. It feels like forgiveness. Tomorrow, you'll march, you'll face hunger, danger, the endless uncertainty of war. But tonight, you rest. You've earned this peace, fragile, fleeting, but real. As the stars appear, you whisper to yourself, the worst is over. And this time, you believe it. The boy yawns, curling into his blanket. The veteran snores almost immediately. The fire burns low, steady, unafraid. You close your eyes. Outside, the world hums quietly, water flowing, wind breathing, life returning. The season has changed. And so have you. The morning of departure arrives like the opening of a door. You wake before the others. To air that smells of damp leather, wood smoke, and new grass. The sky is painted in faint pink and gold, and mist drifts across the thawing ground in ribbons. For the first time in months, the silence isn't heavy, it feels clean, like the pause before music. You sit for a moment, watching light creep across the camp. Tents sag, ropes glisten, puddles reflect the sky. Everything looks worn but alive, like a world that has survived something enormous. The veteran stirs beside you, groaning softly as he sits up. Did we win? He asks through a yawn. Against winter? You say? Smiling. Maybe it surrendered. He chuckles. If so, it was a brutal campaign. The boy appears next, already lacing his boots. He's humming again, always humming. Feels strange, he says, glancing around. We've been here so long it almost feels like home. You nod. Funny how quickly misery becomes routine. Or comfort, he adds, smiling. You tilt your head. You'd call this comfortable? He shrugs. At least it's familiar. Careful, the veteran says, standing and stretching. That's how men end up missing the worst places. He's not wrong. There's something unsettling about leaving this frozen sanctuary. This place that tried to kill you but also taught you how to live. Breakfast is quick. What little food remains. Divided without ceremony. No one speaks much. There's an unspoken reverence in the air. The same kind you feel when leaving a place of mourning. The fire burns low, its smoke curling into the pale morning light. You take one last look at the camp. The footprints in the mud. The ashes in the pit. The faint outline where your tent once stood. Ghosts of the past months linger everywhere, not haunting. Just watching. Ready? You ask. The boy nods. The veteran grunts. And so you move. The path out of camp is narrow. Half melted, lined with slush and mud. Each step squelches, leaving dark prints behind. The air hums with birdsong and dripping water. In the distance, the forest gleams wet and alive, each branch shaking off its burden of frost. You walk in silence for a while. The rhythm of boots and breath and creaking leather your only companions. Then the boy says quietly, "Do you think anyone will ever know what it was really like?" "Maybe," you say, "but not how it felt." "Because they'll never be this cold?" "Because they'll never have to find warmth like we did." He nods slowly, eyes on the path. "I'll remember," he says. "I know you will." The veteran snorts. If he doesn't, his bones will. That makes the boy laugh. And somehow that sound, sharp, alive, cuts through the melancholy like sunlight through fog. The road winds upward through the forest. The snow grows thinner with every step, replaced by damp earth and the faint promise of green. You spot wildflowers starting to bloom in clusters, shy things, peeking through mud. You stop for a moment, kneel, and brush a finger across one of them. Its petals tremble but hold. "Delicate little fool," the veteran mutters. "Picked the wrong battlefield. Maybe it picked the only one worth fighting." You reply. The boy crouches beside you. It's small, but it's winning. Exactly. The sun climbs higher, warming your shoulders. You shed a layer of wool, and the sensation of air on your skin feels almost indecent. You can feel the wind not cutting, but touching. For months, you'd forgotten it could do that. By midday, you reach the ridge overlooking the valley. From here, you can see the world again, fields half covered in melting snow. Rivers running wild, the faint smudge of a village far away. It looks impossibly distant and impossibly inviting. The veteran stops beside you, breathing heavily. "That," he says, pointing to the valley, "is a good view to remember dying for." You glance at him. "You planning to?" "Not today," he says. "Too pretty for that." You laugh, shaking your head. The boy stares at the horizon, quiet for a moment. Then he says softly, "It doesn't look as cold from up here." "It never does," you reply. "From a distance, even misery looks gentle." He nods, thoughtful. You rest there for a while. The three of you, letting the sun warm your faces. The wind moves through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and thawed soil. It smells like possibility. Historians might one day write that the army marched bravely from winter into spring. But you know the truth, it wasn't bravery. It was exhaustion, persistence, stubborn life refusing to quit. Eventually, the commander's horn sounds from below. It's time. You adjust your pack, glance once more at the camp below, and whisper a quiet farewell. Not to the suffering, but to the version of yourself that learned to live inside it. The boy looks back too. Then smiles. Let's go find something new to survive. Now there's a soldier, the veteran says approvingly. You start walking again, boots sinking into the thawing earth. The sound of dripping snow follows you, rhythmic and endless, like applause from a world slowly waking. The cold doesn't chase you anymore. It watches, fading behind you with each step. You don't look back again. The march south begins under a pale sky, the kind of blue that still feels cautious, as if spring doesn't yet trust itself to stay. Your boots sink deep into the thawing ground with every step. Mud clings to your soles, heavy and relentless, but you don't curse it. After months of snow and ice, you welcome the drag, the soft resistance of living earth beneath your feet. The air hums with noise again, dripping water. Birds calling, armor clinking, men coughing and laughing all at once. You hadn't realized how much you missed noise, how alive it sounds when you're not afraid of it. The boy walks beside you, swinging his pack like it's half as heavy as everyone else's. He's humming again, not the haunting tune from the winter, but something lighter, playful. Every few notes he whistles off key, and you can't help smiling. Behind you, the veteran trudges along, muttering, "You'd think after surviving a winter like that, we'd earn a proper road." This is the proper road. You call back, "It just forgot to dry." He snorts. A lot of things forgot themselves this year. The sun climbs higher, soft and yellow, brushing warmth across your shoulders. The thaw is everywhere, streams bursting through old ice, branches dripping, the smell of wet bark thick in the air. Even the horses seem lighter, their breath no longer freezing midair. You pass through the forest where the snow once stood as high as your knees. Now, the ground is littered with broken twigs, patches of moss, and puddles that reflect the sky. The mud sucks at your boots with every step, making rude noises that make the boy laugh every time. "Careful," you tell him, "that mud has eaten better men than you. Then I'll teach it to chew slowly." He fires back. The veteran groans, "God save me from optimistic children." The laughter feels easy now. Not forced, not desperate, real. It echoes between the trees, startling a flock of birds into flight. They rise in a sudden cloud of feathers and sound, scattering sunlight as they go. Historians might later call this the Army's renewal. But standing here, you know it's simpler. The world is alive again, and you just happen to be walking through it. At midday, the column halts by a wide meadow, half melted and glistening with dew. The commander shouts orders about rest and rations, but no one really listens. Everyone's too busy breathing. The smell of grass, the sight of open sky, it's all too much. Too beautiful to obey. You sit under a tree with the veteran and the boy, sharing a strip of dried meat that tastes almost edible under the sun. The boy tilts his head back, eyes closed, face full of light. "I forgot the sky could be this bright," he says. The veteran chuckles. "You'll complain about it soon enough." "Maybe," the boy says, smiling, "but I'll still like it." You lie back on the damp grass. The warmth seeps into your coat, and the ground smells of sap and promise. You know, you murmur, "It's strange. I thought I'd be happy to leave that camp behind. But now it feels like we left part of ourselves there." The veteran nods. You don't live through something like that without leaving ghosts behind. Maybe, you say, or maybe we carried them with us. He glances down at you. You think ghosts like marching? They like warmth. You answer. Who doesn't? The boy laughs softly. Then this march is a reunion. The rest of the afternoon unfolds in golden haze. The sun hangs low, the world glowing wet and new. You pass through valleys where the snow still lingers in shadows. Through fields where grass is pushing up like stubborn memory. Every step feels lighter, though your pack hasn't changed. As evening falls, the army stops near a stream. Fires spring up quickly, small ones. More habit than necessity now. The air is cool, not cold. The flames are comfort, not survival. You sit by yours, watching the smoke twist upward. The boy pokes at the fire with a stick. Do you think the worst is behind us? You stare into the flames. The worst of winter? Yes. The rest? We'll see. He nods, satisfied enough with that. Then I'll take it. The veteran lies back, his head resting on his pack. You ever notice, he says, how when the cold finally leaves, it doesn't feel like victory, just permission to rest? You smile. That's all victory ever is. The night comes slowly, with the sky painted in layers of orange, purple, and blue. You can hear frogs croaking somewhere nearby. Their voices blending with the low murmur of men talking, laughing, living. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders. Not out of fear but habit. The warmth of the fire seeps through the fabric. It feels good, almost human again. You glance at the boy. He's fallen asleep sitting up, his chin resting on his chest, his lips curved in a small smile. The veteran snoring softly beside him, mumbling something about stew. You watch them for a long while, then look up at the stars. They're the same ones that hung above you in the bitterest nights. But they look closer now, friendlier, like they've been waiting for you to notice them again. You breathe deeply, the air cool but sweet. The ache in your bones has dulled, replaced by something quieter, not peace. Not yet, but the memory of what peace might feel like. You whisper to the stars. We survived winter. The wind answers, soft and low, carrying the scent of thawed pine. And for the first time in too long, you don't just believe you'll see spring, you feel it. Already moving inside you. The next morning, the world wakes before you do. When you open your eyes, light is already spilling through the trees, bright and alive, painting the air in gold. The mist that once hung over the camp has turned to dew, clinging to blades of grass and armor straps, glittering like 1,000 tiny suns. For a moment, you just lie there, breathing it in, the warmth, the sound of water, the scent of wet leaves. It's the kind of morning that feels impossible after months of frost. The boy is sitting by the stream, washing his face, humming as always. The tune is softer now, less of a survival chant and more like something hopeful. You join him, crouching beside the water. It's clear enough to see the stones below, their shapes shifting under the ripples. You splash your face, and the shock of cold is pleasant. It wakes you, reminds you you're still alive. The veteran approaches with his usual limp, carrying 3 cups and what looks like a dented kettle. "Boiled this twice," he says, pouring the steaming liquid into the cups. "Once to kill it, once to make it taste less like mud." You take a sip. It's bitter, smoky, perfect, tastes like victory, you say. The boy laughs. "Tastes like regret." The veteran smirks. "Good, means it's working." The 3 of you sit in silence for a while, drinking, watching sunlight crawl across the stream. The world feels wide again. You'd forgotten how space itself can feel alive, the way air moves. How colors shift with the light. How silence can sing. "You know," the veteran says after a while, "we could have died 100 times this winter." "Probably did," you answer. "Just kept coming back." He chuckles. "You think that's what survival is? Just refusing to stay dead?" "Pretty much." The boy smiles faintly. "Then we're all ghosts who didn't get the message." You grin. "Haunting's a good profession for soldiers." The veteran raises his cup. "To the ghosts." Then, you clink your tin against his. The boy joins in, solemn at first, then laughing. The sound echoes off the water and into the trees. Historians might someday call this moment the Army's morale restored. But it's not about morale, it's about memory. It's about realizing you've lived through something so relentless that everything afterward feels like grace. You stand and begin the day's march. The mud is thick, the path winding through patches of melting snow and new grass. The air smells of thaw and iron. Every breath feels earned. As the sun climbs, you shed another layer of wool. The weight of winter literally falls from your shoulders. The boy skips ahead, splashing through puddles, shouting back warnings about enemy frogs. The veteran shakes his head, muttering about youth being contagious. You just smile. It's a strange feeling, to walk without dread, to feel motion without fear. For months, movement meant surviving, now it means living. You pass a ruined farmhouse half buried in mud. Its roof caved in but the walls still standing. Someone's carved a message into the wood near the doorway. Spring remembers everything. You stop, tracing the letters with your finger. Whoever wrote that, you murmur, understood something. The boy tilts his head. That winter doesn't last forever? Maybe that everything does, even what tries to kill you. The veteran grunts. Let's hope it doesn't remember too fondly. By midday, you reach a small hill overlooking a river valley. The snowline has retreated far into the distance, and the water below flashes like liquid glass. You stand there a long time, watching it move. It's strange, the boy says quietly. The world looks the same, but I feel different. You are different, you say. The world's just catching up. He looks at you, thinking that over. You think we'll ever stop feeling cold? No, you reply softly. But we'll stop fearing it. The veteran claps a hand on your shoulder. Philosophers again, he mutters. You two could make money if words were edible. Good, you say. I'm starving for meaning anyway. He laughs, a deep rumbling sound that makes you smile. As evening falls, you make camp near the river. The sky burns orange and pink. And for once, the reflection on the water looks like fire that doesn't hurt. The air hums with insects and the faint croak of frogs, strange music after so much silence. You sit with your back to a tree, watching the boy tend the fire. He does it without thinking now. feeding wood, adjusting flame, coaxing light the same way you once coaxed courage. The veteran sits nearby, carving something from a piece of wood, a bird. You realize, rough, clumsy, but unmistakably alive. When he's finished, he tosses it to the boy. A souvenir, he says. The boy catches it, eyes lighting up. You made this? Don't sound so surprised. It's beautiful. The veteran shrugs, hiding a smile. Ugly things make better memories. You look at the carving, small, imperfect, wings stretched as if mid-flight. It feels like a fitting monument for this strange season. As night deepens, you lie back and look at the stars. The same ones that watched you freeze now shimmer above the soft warmth of spring. You breathe deeply, and the air fills your lungs easily. No ache, no struggle, just breath. The boy's voice drifts through the quiet. You think we'll tell this story someday? You smile in the dark. Probably, but no one will believe it. Good, he says. It's better that way. You close your eyes, feeling the ground beneath you, soft, forgiving, warm. The fire crackles, the river murmurs, the night feels endless, but not cruel. You whisper to yourself, barely audible, we're not just alive, we're awake. The stars seem to nod in reply, their light steady and sure. And somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls, the sound sharp, bright, alive. You smile into the dark, letting sleep come. You wake before sunrise, not from cold, but from habit. After so many months of sleeping half aware, your body doesn't quite trust peace yet. The air is soft, filled with the steady hush of the river and the distant chatter of birds beginning their morning arguments. You lie still for a while, watching the color seep back into the world. The sky starts gray, then blushes with pink, then gold. Mist rises from the ground in long ribbons, curling between the trees like breath from some great sleeping animal. Everything feels slower now, deliberate, as if the earth itself is stretching after a long confinement. The boy stirs beside the fire, rubbing his eyes. His hair is sticking out in wild tufts again. You're awake early, he mumbles. Old habits, you say. Winter trained me too well. He yawns and pulls his blanket tighter. Think we'll forget what that felt like? You shake your head. No, but maybe it'll stop hurting when we remember it. The veteran joins you a few minutes later, already muttering about his joints. He sits with a heavy sigh. I dreamed about summer, he says. It was too hot, miserable, perfect. You laugh. I'd trade this river for one of those dreams. He grins. Don't tempt fate. It might take you seriously. You spend the morning preparing to move again. The air is damp, but not biting. The mud squelches under your boots as you dismantle the camp. Each tent that comes down leaves a dark rectangle of flattened grass, like ghosts politely giving up their beds. The boy hums as he rolls up rope. I used to hate mornings, he says. Now they feel like proof. Proof of what? You ask. That we made it through another night. You pause, then nod. That's all mornings ever are. By mid-morning, the company is moving again, a long line of cloaks and armor glinting in the new light. The path winds through open fields, where the last snow melts into puddles that gleam like mirrors. Everywhere you look, the world is dripping, water falling from branches, trickling from stones, sliding down your wrists. It's messy, alive, beautiful. The veteran points toward the horizon where faint smoke rises. Village ahead, he says. Looks like people actually live there. You narrow your eyes. Real roofs. Real walls? Real problems, he replies, chuckling. As you draw closer, the smell of wood smoke and wet hay fills the air. The village isn't much, a cluster of crooked houses. Mud streets, a few chickens looking offended by everything. But to soldiers who've slept in snow, it looks like paradise. Children appear first, peering from doorways. Then older faces, farmers. Women with shawls. A gray bearded man leaning on a stick. They don't cheer, they just watch, cautious but curious. The commander calls for a halt. And you drop your pack with a sigh. The boys staring around in wonder. It's strange, he says. People just living. That's the hardest thing, you reply. Living like the world never froze. He nods slowly, eyes tracing the smoke curling from chimneys. Think we could do it too? Someday, you say, but not yet. The veteran buys bread from a villager, coarse, rough, but fresh. When he breaks it, steam spills out, and the smell alone nearly makes you dizzy. You each take a piece. It's warm, soft, real. Careful, he says, chewing. You might remember what happiness tastes like. You grin. I already did. The villagers share water, even a few onions, humble offerings that feel like riches. There's laughter again, cautious but contagious. A woman presses a flower into the boy's hand, a small white bloom. He looks at it like it's treasure. What'll you do with it, you ask? He tucks it behind his ear. Keep it till it dries. Proof that spring found us. The march resumes in the afternoon. But lighter, easier. The sun stays high. The sky impossibly wide. You catch yourself walking slower. Looking at everything. The green shoots breaking through the mud. The birds darting between trees. The distant shimmer of water. Historians will say the army recovered its strength. But that's not what this feels like. It's not strength you found, it's softness. The ability to look at something fragile and not flinch. When evening comes, you camp on a hillside overlooking the valley. The river winds below like a silver thread. Catching the dying light, you sit by the fire. Legs stretched, hands warm. The veteran dozes, the boy hums. The tune is familiar but changed again, slower. Almost gentle. You stare into the flames. They don't feel desperate anymore. They feel steady, a companion instead of a lifeline. You know, you say softly, it's strange how quickly we forget we were dying. The boy looks up, maybe that's how we keep living. You nod, watching the sparks rise into the dark. Maybe. The night settles in, warm and quiet. The stars blink awake one by one. Somewhere nearby, an owl calls, not a warning, but a welcome. You lie down, the earth soft beneath you. The smell of grass thick in the air. For the first time since autumn, you don't reach for your cloak before sleep. You just breathe. And as you drift off, one thought hums steady in your mind, quiet as the river below. The cold tried to teach us to stop, but we learned to begin again instead. You wake to the sound of running water, not the muffled trickle of melt, but the clear, confident rush of a river alive and unafraid. The sound fills the valley, echoing off the trees like music. For the first time, you realize that silence isn't something you need anymore. Noise, Soft, natural, human, feels like a heartbeat you forgot you had. You sit up slowly, rubbing the sleep from your eyes. The morning light is warm enough to see steam rise from the ground. Your breath no longer fogs. You stretch, and the ache that's lived in your bones since winter began feels dull now. Almost nostalgic, a scar instead of a wound. The boy's already awake, of course. He's down by the river, skipping stones with perfect concentration. Each one clicks, bounces, and sinks with a satisfying plop. Morning, he calls. It's easier now. The water's not solid anymore. You smile. You've improved since last time. He grins back. Guess I've had a lot of practice with patience. The veteran joins you, yawning so wide you hear his jaw pop. What's he doing? Reminding the river it's free. You say. The veteran squints at you. Still poetic. I see. It's the weather. You answer. Makes me sentimental. He snorts. You mean soft. You grin. That too. You all share breakfast. Bread gone a bit stale overnight, but still edible. The boy adds a few wild greens he picked nearby. You're not sure they're safe, but they taste like something alive. And that's enough. The sun climbs higher, and the camp stirs into motion. There's no frost left to scrape off boots. No ice to break from buckets. Just the gentle rhythm of men talking, packing, whistling, even singing. The sound feels foreign but right, a reminder that life isn't meant to whisper forever. As you walk, the forest opens into wide fields. The ground squishes beneath your boots. Soft and forgiving, the air hums with insects now. Tiny lives resuming their work as if the world never froze. A breeze carries the scent of new growth, mud, grass, and faint sweetness. You ever think, the boy says, that maybe the earth was asleep all winter? The veteran chuckles. If it was, we were the nightmare. You smile at that, then maybe now it's dreaming better. You reach a hilltop by midday. Below, a river bends through green plains. And beyond that, faint smoke. The suggestion of roads and people. Civilization. It feels unreal. You all stop to take it in. The boy's eyes are wide, shining. That's the world, he whispers. Looks smaller than I remember. The veteran says. Maybe we got bigger. You reply. He grunts. Don't feel bigger. Maybe not stronger. You say, but deeper. Historians would later call this march the Army's return to movement. They'd list routes, distances, supply lines. They'd miss this. 3 soldiers standing on a hill, realizing that the world didn't end after all. You descend toward the valley. The mud gives way to firm soil. The color dark and rich. Every step feels like sinking into a promise. The birds follow your path, their songs weaving above you like a living roof. At one point, the boy runs ahead, chasing something, a butterfly. Pale yellow, flitting clumsily through the air. You watch him laugh as he follows it. Boots splashing, cloak billowing. The sound of his joy feels louder than the river. He'll lose it, the veteran mutters. Doesn't matter. You say, it's enough to chase it. He glances at you. You sound like a priest. Only colder. You answer with a grin. By late afternoon, you find an old stone bridge spanning the river. The arches are moss-covered, worn but unbroken. Water rushes beneath it, clear and fierce. You stop midway across, resting your hands on the cold stone wall, staring down at the current. The boy joins you, leaning over the edge. It looks alive. It is. You say. It always was. We were just frozen too long to notice. The veteran stands beside you, squinting at the horizon. Strange, he says. We walked through a season that tried to erase us, and here we are. Crossing rivers like it never happened. You nod. That's the trick of survival. It makes ordinary days feel like miracles. The wind picks up, lifting your hair, carrying the scent of the river and the faint hum of the world reborn. You close your eyes for a moment, letting it wash over you, the sound, the air, the light. When you open them again, the boy's staring at the water, lost in thought. Do you think winter will remember us? He asks quietly. You smile. It'll try, but we'll be too busy living to answer. He nods, satisfied. Good. As evening comes, the sun sinks low behind the trees, turning the river gold. The reflection blinds you for a second. Dazzling, glorious, the world burning without pain. You stand there longer than you need to, memorizing it. The veteran finally speaks. Come on, before the commander yells. You turn back, following him off the bridge, your boots squelching in the wet grass. The boy hums his song again, softer now, almost like a lullaby. The camp that night feels easy, unburdened. Men talk quietly. Fires burn gently. The air is cool but kind. You lie on your back, staring at the stars, the murmur of the river steady in your ears. You think about the long months behind you, the snow, the hunger, the endless cold. They feel far away now, like something that happened to someone else. But you carry them still, in your bones. Your breath, your patience. You whisper to the night, we didn't beat winter, we outlasted it. And maybe that's the same thing. The stars flicker in agreement, and the wind sighs through the trees like a prayer finally finished. You close your eyes, letting the sound of the river guide you towards sleep, steady, eternal, forgiving. The morning begins with light and laughter. Someone's cooking near the fire, onions, maybe, and something that smells faintly of herbs. The air is thick with warmth, the kind that feels like a promise kept. You blink awake slowly, half expecting frost on your blanket. But the only chill comes from memory. The cold's been gone for days, and yet it lingers inside you like an old ghost that forgot to leave. You sit up, stretching, bones creaking less than usual. The boy's crouched beside the fire, stirring a pot with exaggerated ceremony. Breakfast fit for kings, he says proudly. The veteran raises an eyebrow. If the kings are very forgiving. You grin, crawling closer. What's in it? The boy hesitates. Mostly water. A little bit of pride. Maybe some flavor. The veteran snorts. Luxury. You take a taste. It's warm, bland, perfect. I'll take it, you say. We've eaten worse. He smiles. We've been worse. The laughter that follows is light, almost fragile, like a bird testing its wings after too long in a cage. But it feels good. You eat together, the three of you, watching the sun crawl over the tree line. Every ray feels earned. Once breakfast is done, you break camp. The tents fold easily now. The ropes aren't stiff with frost. Everything is lighter, easier. You move slowly, not because you're tired but because you don't want to rush this fragile peace. The path ahead leads through meadows bursting with early flowers, pale blue, yellow, white. They nod in the breeze as you pass, as if the world itself is greeting you. The boy picks one, twirls it between his fingers, and tucks it into his belt. "I'll keep one for every day we walk," he says, proof that we kept moving. "Careful," the veteran says. "You'll run out of belt." "Then I'll start a crown," the boy replies, grinning. The veteran shakes his head. "You're dangerous with hope." "Maybe that's the point," you say. You march quietly for a while after that. The air hums with insects, and the soft rush of wind through grass sounds almost like waves. The rhythm of your steps syncs with your breath, steady, unhurried. Historians might one day call this the transition period. But that word feels too mechanical. This isn't a transition, it's a rebirth. The cold stripped everything away, and now, somehow, what's left feels honest. By midday, the company halts near a small grove of trees. Water flows nearby, a shallow stream so clear you can see tiny fish darting between pebbles. The commander gives the order to rest. You drop your pack and stretch your legs in the sunlight. The boy wades into the stream, boots off, trousers rolled to his knees. "It's freezing," he shouts, laughing anyway. "Then get out," the veteran calls. "No," the boy says, grinning. "I want to remember what cold feels like, when it doesn't hurt." You watch him splash around, sunlight catching the droplets as they arc through the air. It's the most carefree you've seen him since the first snow. You turn to the veteran. "Do you remember your first winter?" He grunts. "Barely. I was young, stupid, thought courage was thicker than fur. Froze half to death and still bragged about it." You smile. "And now?" "Now I know better. Courage just keeps you moving. Fire keeps you alive." You nod. "Maybe warmth isn't in the fire anymore. Maybe it's in us." He chuckles. "You'd better not write poetry, or I'll have to hit you." "Too late," you say. "The words are contagious." He sighs but doesn't argue. As the sun begins to lower, the company moves again. The landscape changes, rolling hills, soft rivers, the occasional farmhouse in the distance. The sight of smoke rising peacefully from a chimney makes something twist in your chest, envy. Maybe, or longing. "Think they know?" the boy asks as you pass another cottage. "Know what?" "What it's like, out here. In winter." You shake your head. "No, and that's good. Someone has to keep the world warm while the rest of us freeze." He nods, thoughtful. By evening, the sky glows red and orange, the clouds catching fire before fading into purple. The company makes camp near a ridge, overlooking a valley filled with mist. Fires bloom across the hillside like stars fallen to earth. You sit beside your own, the boy humming softly again. The veteran leans back on his elbows, staring at the darkening horizon. "Funny," he says. "I thought I'd never want to see another fire again after that winter." You grin. "And now?" "Now I miss it when it dies." You poke at the embers, watching them pulse and fade. "That's how it goes. Even pain feels like company when it's gone." He nods slowly. "Guess so." The boy looks up from the fire. "Do you think next winter will be this bad?" You meet his eyes. Steady. "It'll be different. They all are. But we'll know how to live through it now." He seems satisfied with that. "Then I'll sing louder next time." The veteran chuckles. As long as it's in tune. The night deepens. The stars stretch overhead, sharp and brilliant. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls, and the sound carries through the still air. You lie back, staring at the sky. The fire crackles beside you, the warmth licking your face, your hands. For a long while, no one speaks. There's nothing left to say, just the quiet comfort of existing. Together, beneath a forgiving sky. You think about the months behind you, the hunger, the frostbite, the endless dark. All of it seems to blur now, folding into this moment of stillness. Survival has turned into something gentler, gratitude. Perhaps. You close your eyes and let out a long breath. The boy's voice drifts softly through the dark, barely above a whisper. We kept walking. You smile without opening your eyes. And we'll keep walking still. The wind shifts, carrying the smell of grass and smoke. The fire hums low, steady. The night wraps around you like a blanket. And somewhere in the distance, spring keeps breathing. The next day feels almost unreal. The world has grown too alive, the air thick with the smell of damp grass. The buzzing of flies, the heavy warmth that seeps into your bones. It's the kind of day that would have been unbearable months ago. But now you welcome it like an old friend finally home from exile. The boy walks ahead, humming, always humming, though his tune has changed again. It's lighter, careless, the rhythm of someone who doesn't expect danger at every turn. You can hear other men talking and laughing as they march. Voices easy, unguarded. Even the horses seem to step differently. Less like beasts of burden and more like travelers returning to a road they remember. The veteran catches up to you. Squinting against the sun. You smell that? He asks. You inhale deeply. The wind carries the scent of soil and something sweet. Spring, you say. It's official now. He nods. Good. I was getting tired of pretending not to believe in it. You grin. Skepticism didn't suit you anyway. Neither does optimism, he replies. True, you laugh. But look at you trying both. The road leads downhill toward a wide plain dotted with wildflowers. The last traces of winter hide only in the shadows now, thin patches of ice under trees. Melting faster than you can blink. The sky is so bright it hurts your eyes. Historians would probably call this part of the story recovery. But that word feels wrong. Recovery sounds passive, like something that happens to you. This feels earned. Each step forward is a deliberate act of defiance against every frozen night that told you to stop moving. You reach a fork in the road where an old milestone stands half buried in mud. The writing's faded, but you can just make out the distance to a nearby town. Civilization, warm walls, bread that isn't rationed. Tomorrow, the commander announces, we'll reach it by dusk. A murmur of relief ripples through the ranks, not cheers, but a quiet sound, like breathing after holding it too long. You glance at the boy. First roof over our heads in months. He grins. Do you think they'll have beds? Probably. Do you think he'll remember how to sleep on one? Probably not, you say, smiling, but you'll learn again. The veteran chuckles. I've forgotten how to trust anything that isn't damp. Then you'll feel right at home. You tease. The march continues through the afternoon. The landscape shifts from wild fields to farmland, fences, tilled soil, even the faint bleating of sheep somewhere beyond a ridge. The signs of ordinary life make you ache in ways you can't name. The boy stops by a wooden post covered in ivy. Someone has carved initials into it, letters you don't recognize. People lived here once, he says softly. They still do, you reply. They just didn't freeze. He touches the carving gently, like it's sacred. Lucky them. Maybe, you say, or maybe they just didn't have to learn what we did. He looks up at you. And what's that? That warmth matters more when you've earned it. He nods slowly, as if tucking the thought away for later. The veteran walks past, muttering, "Philosophers again, I can't escape you too." You smile. You could try humming. He glares. "I'll take frostbite." By evening, the sky burns red, not the cold crimson of winter sunsets, but the deep, molten color of heat and life. The light glows on armor, turns the world gold. You make camp near the edge of the fields, where the earth smells rich and alive. The men light fires easily now. No one hoards wood or guards the flames like treasure. There's enough of everything: warmth, air, laughter. You sit by your fire with the boy and the veteran, sharing the last of the day's bread. It's stale and tough, but it doesn't matter. Hunger has lost its edge. The veteran leans back, watching the smoke rise. "I keep thinking about how quiet it was in winter," he says, "how small the world felt." You nod. Cold shrinks everything, even time. And now? You look around, at the fires. The open sky, the boys softly humming. Now it feels endless. The boy pokes at the flames. "Do you think we'll forget how to be cold?" "No," you say. "We'll just stop needing it to remember who we are." The veteran sighs. "Maybe that's good. I'm tired of remembering." You laugh softly. "Then tonight, don't. Just sit." He does. The night deepens slowly. The sky turns violet, then black, and the stars blink awake like old friends. Somewhere far off, a wolf howls, not in hunger, but as if to announce its survival too. You stretch out by the fire, feeling the warmth soak into you. It's not the desperate heat of a man fighting to live, it's comfort. You could fall asleep right here and not worry the cold will steal your breath before morning. The boy hums a few final notes before drifting into silence. The veteran's snore begins, steady as a drumbeat. You look up at the stars and feel, for the first time, not small but held. You whisper into the dark, "Tomorrow, we walk into warmth." The fire crackles in reply, a soft agreement. And as your eyes grow heavy, the last thing you hear is the sound of the river somewhere nearby, flowing. Endless, whispering the same truth you've carried since the first frost fell. You made it, you're still here. Morning arrives gently, no horns, no shouting, no dread. Just the soft roll of wind through grass and the rustle of waking men. You open your eyes to sunlight already warming your face. The air smells of wheat and wood smoke, of things alive and ordinary. The boy is already up, brushing crumbs from his cloak, his hair catching the light. "We'll see the town today," he says, excitement barely hidden. The veteran groans from under his blanket. "You sound like a pilgrim." "Maybe I am," the boy replies. "Only my shrine sells bread." You laugh quietly, stretching until your shoulders pop. "Then let's go make our offering." Breakfast is quick, a last bit of grain, boiled thick. The men talk more now. About home, about markets, about anything that doesn't include snow. You catch yourself smiling at the rhythm of normal conversation. It's the sound of life returning. When the march begins, the sky is a wide blue dome above you. The air hums with insects. The road is lined with wildflowers, their petals trembling in the breeze. It's so vivid you almost have to squint. You walk slower than usual. Not because you're tired but because you want to remember. Every step is a kind of farewell to the cold, to the silence, to the version of yourself who thought survival was the same as living. The boy hums his song again, slower now. Almost like a lullaby. The tune has followed you through snow, hunger, frostbite, laughter. It's become the thread of everything you've endured. Do you ever wonder, he says, what we'll dream about now that we're warm again? You think for a long moment before answering. Maybe warmth itself, maybe nothing, maybe peace. The veteran snorts. Peace is just boredom with better lighting. You grin, then I'll take it. He grumbles, but there's a smile in his voice. By midday, the town appears on the horizon, gray roofs. A bell tower, smoke curling from chimneys. It looks small, almost fragile, but impossibly beautiful. You hadn't realized how much you missed corners, walls, the sound of hammers and human voices. The commander gives the order to halt, then to march in. The company's pace changes, shoulders straighten, steps lighten, even the horses snort as if they understand. As you cross the bridge into the town, villagers gather to watch. Some smile, others stare in quiet awe at these half-starved ghosts of war returning with the thaw. A little girl waves a piece of bread in your direction. The boy catches it mid-air, laughing, and breaks it in half without hesitation. You take a piece, and it's still warm. The veteran watches the exchange. That's it, then. The world didn't end. No, you say softly. It just paused. He nods, and we pressed play again. The streets smell of cooking, of damp wood, of life. The men disperse, some seeking food, some water, some just standing still as if afraid to wake up. You find a bench near the square and sit. The stone is warm beneath you. The boy joins you, still chewing bread. He says nothing for a while. Then quietly. It feels strange to stop moving. You look at him. We never really stop. We just rest long enough to remember why we walk. He nods slowly. Then this is remembering. The veteran approaches with 3 mugs of something steaming. Ale, he says proudly. Watered down, overcharged, and perfect. You take yours and raise it. To winter, you say. He frowns. To winter? You smile. For leaving. The boy grins. And for teaching us to want spring. The mugs clink together, a small sound, but sharp and sure. The sun begins to lower, turning the town golden. Children chase one another near the well. Women hang linens that glow white in the light. Somewhere, someone plays a fiddle, clumsy, joyful, human. You lean back, closing your eyes. The warmth on your skin feels deeper than sunlight, it feels earned. Every scar, every ache, every cold night has led here. To this soft, ordinary peace. Historians will write about strategy, about survival, about the march through winter. They'll use words like hardship, endurance, victory, but none of them will understand this. The quiet joy of a warm bench. The sound of laughter echoing through streets. The miracle of stillness without fear. The boy hums his tune one last time, then falls silent. You look up, the sky is pink, fading toward violet. The veteran snores softly beside you, mug still in hand. You breathe deeply, slowly. The air is full of life, of sound, of everything that winter tried to erase. Your eyes grow heavy, but it's a good kind of weight, the kind that says, "You've done enough, rest." You whisper, almost to yourself, "We slept through the cold. We woke with the world. And now we rest in its warmth." The breeze stirs the edge of your cloak, soft as a hand on your shoulder. The day fades, colors blurring. The noises of the town grow distant, gentle. Your heartbeat slows. The world hums like a lullaby. And as the last light slips away, you let it all go, the ice, the fear, the endless march, dissolving into something quiet, peaceful, whole. Your final thought before sleep is simple, wordless, warm. You're safe now. The stars appear, the world exhales. End of script. Sweet dreams.